And welcome back. Today we are going to go ahead and work with our selection modifiers again to go ahead and create some artwork. Now previously I had done something like this where we had made a shield, and we're going to attempt to do something similar, but this time using our selection modifiers to kind of help us make something that's going to be similar. So to get started here, let's go ahead and create a new image. We're going to do 64 by 64, same as always. And we use Control-0 to zoom that in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to want to maybe add a border to my image. So I'm going to do Control-A, which is going to select the entire image, as you will notice. And I'm going to go up here to Select, and I'm going to choose to Modify, and I'm going to Contract. And I'm going to make sure Apply Effective Canvas Balance is checked, because that means I want to check the edge of this canvas here, where the image is, my 64 by 64. And I'm going to just contract this by 1 pixel to get started. Alright, and right now, if we look at this, if I were to take my fill bucket and fill this in on the region here to try and make a border, nothing happens. It's because right now my selection is inside. So I'm just going to Control-C here for a second. And I'm going to use the old Select Inverse option to select that 1 pixel around the outside there. So let's go ahead and click that now. We painted that black. Excellent. But let's say we want to add another color here. Let's say we want to do like a blue in here. So I'm just going to click OK. Oh, I didn't double click that. There we go. That helps. And now let's go ahead and do select. We're going to now use our grow and similar options here. If I click on those, you'll notice nothing happens here because we haven't actually changed the selection itself. So let's go back to modify, and we can choose contract again. And then we're going to go ahead and leave this contract by 1 pixel. Let's go ahead and leave that on there. Maybe we want to make that 2 pixels. It just stands a little more. So let's use 2 pixels. And it says, warning, no pixels selected. Uh-oh, what did we do? Well, let's go ahead and grab our selection tool, and we can click on that black border there. And we're going to hit select and inverse, because now we want to select this region on the inside again. We didn't want that region on the outside, and that's part of the reason why we had that issue. So now I'm going to just go ahead and now do modify, and let's contract 2 pixels. And there you can see our selection has contracted now, so now we have this 2 pixel border. Using our fill bucket, let's go ahead and click on that. Again, nothing happens because the selection zone is outside rather than inside. So we want to use an inverse. And let's click on that region that is not shaded. And you can see that even though we have this whole selection modifier here, it only filled in the area that was not currently painted with any color. Alright, cool. So we have a nice border established here. And maybe we want to do this one more time. Let's go ahead and maybe try to make one more color. So if we again try to do this as modify and contract, and we say, hey, we want to contract this by another 2 pixels, we're still going to get that error. And that's because again we had that outside region selected. So we can go ahead and now do this. We say, hey, I want to select this region on the inside here. And currently I have this outside border selected. So if we ever try to paint inside right now, you'll see nothing happens. So we just inverse that selection. There it is. Then we can go ahead and modify that selection with contract. Let's just do a 1 pixel this time. There's our 1 pixel border. Instead of this dark blue, let's go for a much lighter blue this time. And we'll just go ahead and click that. Oh, we forgot to inverse this selection one more time. And there it is. So we now have a border created for our image. Alright, let's just go ahead and deselect this. Select and deselect. And let's get ready to make our image. But before I do that, I'm just going to go over to my layers panel, double click where it says layer 1, and just call this border. Just so I can keep this separate from the actual image. And then let's create a new image. And I'm just going to call this outline. So now we have our image started, we have outline, we have border. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my brush tool, or my pencil tool rather, and let's actually increase that brush size just so we have a nice good size here. Reset this to black and white, and I'm going to go ahead and try to hold down the shift key here to make a nice straight line. That looks pretty good there. Again, using the shift key, let's go ahead and bring that down, bring it over and back up. Oh, looks like I wasn't quite straight with my lines, but that's okay. I can straighten that out. There we go, and let's just fill the rest of this in. And now I'm going to go ahead and bring that brush size back down to 1 pixel just by using the bracket keys. I'm going to go off this corner here And let's just say I'm going to about right here. 1 pixel older, back up. That looks pretty close there, I would say. Not exactly the same. So maybe I need to adjust this just a little bit. And we'll just go ahead and use the fill bucket to fill the rest of that in. And now we have established a shape here. All right, looks pretty good. It may not be exactly the same, but again, this is just an exercise in selection modifiers, so we're not necessarily looking for this to be perfect. Now, going back to my pencil tool for a moment here, I want to add another layer here. But before I do that, we want to select this region here. So let's just use our quick selection tool and click on that. Boom, we've selected that region. And what I want to do is actually kind of keep this as my border for my image, rather than going through and outlining it. Remember, we've done outlining all the way back when we did 8 by 8 pixels. I can go ahead now with the selection and say select, modify, and I can contract that by 1 pixel. And I can leave that 1 pixel border on there. Great, awesome. Now I have the selection here. Let's go ahead and, for example, say, you know what, I want this selection to be my next region. So let's just hit new. And let's go ahead and with that new layer, if we try to fill this in now with a color, let's just pick something different, like this red works fine. If I click on that, you see, even though I clicked on that red, you can see it stayed within that selection, even though I'm on a different layer. And if we reference our reference image here we can see we have white, but that's okay because we're making a new shield here. And we're going to apply a pattern to this anyways in a minute, so I'm not too worried about this. Now we do have this cross here that's red, so maybe I don't want to use red here. Maybe I want to use a different color. Let's just use green here just for a quick example. Beautiful. All right, now we do have that cross that we had done before, which was red. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add another layer. And notice we still have the selection modifier here. So we can go ahead and use our pencil tool. And I'm actually just going to increase that just a little bit here. And I'm going to have that pencil tool, I'm going to have it come from all the way here in the bottom. I'll make sure, I might want to change this color here. Let's make that red as we had before. So I'm going to set that all the way in the bottom. Take it all the way to the top. And let's just go ahead and take that so it goes all the way across here. Helps if we can draw a straight line. There we go. There's our red lines right there. And of course we can always change these around if we need to thicken it and stuff like that. But let's just leave these here for a moment. Now let's put right here in the middle something a little different. Let's say I want to use the elliptical tool. So I'm using the elliptical selection. I want to select something here in the middle. I want to do a selection here in the middle. So that looks like a pretty good selection, but maybe I don't have that quite lined up exactly. That's okay. Let's just go ahead and circle around the middle of it. And now that I have this middle selection done, I can just go ahead and grow that selection. And notice it will grab that whole red region there. Awesome, that's pretty cool. But we want to add something to that. So let's just make a new layer. And what we want to do is add something that's just going to be across this region. And we, of course, can do that with different ways. We have different tools. I'm, again, going to just use that elliptical selection. Now, if I did that grow again, you remember how that just went ahead and added the whole selection there. And that's not what we wanted. So we just have to be careful with what we select and notice it's, again, trying to just pull that red. And that's okay for what we need here to get started. And if not, we can always just use our brush tool and modify it that way too. We have a couple options here of what things we want to do. So I'm just going to use my brush tool for now. And that looks like a pretty good selection for what I want to do here. Let's just go ahead and change that for now to, if we want a different color here, let's just use a blue. Just so we can have something that's a little different standing out. There we go. Now this, of course, looks kind of ugly at the current time and stance. But we're going to go ahead and fix this up with patterns. So we're going to go back to our paint bucket tool here. And we want to change this color here. So we, of course, can just do a selection of this if we want. But because we've already made this a distinct color, we can just leave that there. And it should just paint just that color. Plus, it's isolated to its own layer, which helps us tremendously. So up here we have our paint bucket options. We have foreground. I'm going to change this to pattern today. And we have a couple different things in here. We have trees, grass, water, etc. that we can look at for some different patterns. Since this is something that is in the middle of this, Let's go ahead and choose this grass pattern. We're going to change this brown grass right here. And let's go ahead and just click on that. That looks pretty good. And maybe we want to add kind of something more like wooden for this wooden shield. So let's go ahead and change this to our pattern again. Let's choose up here in trees. We have this kind of brown tree pattern. That looks good to me. And we can just go ahead and click on that. Oh, we grab the whole region there if you notice. And that's because we are not in that layer. So let's go to the layer 1. And if we click on it now, you can see it fills in all of layer 1 instantly for us. Pretty cool. Nice and quick and easy. But of course, maybe we want to say, you know what, that may not be the best pattern that we want. And of course, we have different options that we can do with that. Maybe we want to change the opacity of that, for example. So let's just Control Z here a little bit here to get that pattern gone. And when I did that at 49%, you see it makes a nice green checker pattern. So let's actually increase that up to more closer to 80%. That looks interesting for tones. There we go. That looks a little bit more tolerable. Of course, our red, it kind of really stands out right now, and that brown that we had originally here in this layer 3 kind of blends in. So maybe I want to change that to a nice solid color this time. Let's go back to foreground, and let's make this more of a standard black. But notice here, now when I try to paint it, it's not painting it in because we've created a pattern to sit over top that. So I'm just going to use my brush tool to kind of come in here and fix that up. Alright, and there we go. We've done selection modifiers to make a couple things. It may not be the prettiest thing. After all, this I would say looks visually a little bit more appealing than this right now. But if we were to take this image and merge these back down, let's just say, just real quick, let's merge visible. We have created an image that when I zoom out might look a little bit more interesting than when we're always zoomed in at those pixels. Here we have some texture. We have some dynamic pieces, all just from that pattern that we applied.